Okay, are there any men left out there in this entire universe who prefers a woman in her 40s with a natural body?
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you.
We don't care.
Jerry.
Yeah, who's this?
Yeah, who do you think it is?
I don't actually know.
This is your child.
Oh, wait.
Open up
Wait,
the door now.
you had a kid? Nah, there's no way that's mine.
Yes, it is. Open up the door right now.
I've got my wife and kids upstairs, man.
I don't care. This is your child, Johnny. Open up the door right now.
I barely even know you, man. I haven't got nothing for you.
Tango.
Oh, yeah, okay,
We had sex, and unfortunately, now I fell pregnant, and I got a baby now.
Nah, that's on you, man. That's on you. I'm careful, yeah? Nothing breaks around me, yeah? You did this. Look.
Come and see your child right now and tell me why you haven't been paying anything.
I would, but it's not my child. That's the funny thing. I got other kids. You're being a psycho right now, yeah? You think you're gonna get money out of me?
Right now, or I'm gonna take you to court.
Yeah, I don't know what you think you're even gonna achieve here.
Your child. Say hello.
I'm so sorry. Like me, bro. It looks nothing like me. Nah, I don't know who you've been sleeping with, but that ain't me. I ain't seen any of my swimmers like making any of that. Look, I just thought you were good for one night, and then we'd be done with it. But like, you're being all mad. You're being a psycho right now, bringing this kid to my house. I've got 5 kids here. Like, they're all traumatized now. Well done. You're trying to scare little kids, are you?
Johnny, I'm getting very angry right now. I'm really upset. You're a deadbeat father. If you don't pay any money, I'm going to take you to court and tell all your family.
Look, I'll tell you what, yeah? You can tell the baby I said hi.
This is your child, Johnny.
Yeah. Look, okay, I said hi over the phone. That's enough. But what do you want? I ain't got no money to give you. I ain't got nothing. Like, you should be giving me money. Like, you give me a kid and you're expecting me to pay you. Like, what do you mean? You're giving me something, bro. I don't owe you nothing. And you think that shoving this kid on me is going to make me more money, is it? Like, that is a joke. It's a joke, man. It's a joke.
I will be taking you
this
to
kid,
court.
he's got nothing to do with me. You know what I mean?
Please tell me we're online.
Is it okay to be honest about your body count? Girls always ask me this, and here's the truth. Men of quality and men that respect women would never ask you such a personal question.
Translating. Translation complete. Ladies will say that a man should not judge a woman based on the mistakes she made in the past. But any good investor knows the history of a company you invest in can negatively impact your overall investment in the future. How is it that ladies want to know how tall the man is or what kind of career the man has? Yet, when a man wants to know her history to make a good decision on a partner, it means he's insecure. This shaming tactic to lower a man's standard, it's quite hypocritical.
What kind of world do we live in where a normal, regular girl cannot find just a regular guy out here to date? Because these guys don't want a real woman. They want a fantasy. They want to live in this fake fantasy world. They would rather jack off to some screen, to some robot, rather than actually deal with a real human being and what comes with that. You know why? Because it's easier. And I am done.
Okay, first off, do your homework, sweetheart. You're talking to the wrong crowd. Second, guys, I think we all know that if the phone is picked up and the record button is pressed, before the cry, it's not a real cry. Without being able to come up with their own words and general ideas, feminists are now just trying to rip off the message that resonates with all of us, saying things like real women or trying to make it look like guys have just given up and are collecting cobwebs in mom's basement. But, as always, it's just another one of those things to add to the list of feminist beliefs that are leading to their total ruin. I mean, everyone with eyes can see it. Real men have moved on, understanding their value, encouraging lifestyles and communities that bring them up, and aiming for higher goals every day. The weeping girl in the clip isn't talking about us. She's talking about the scraps left behind when we took off. After all, they can't help but blame anyone but themselves, even though it was their own beliefs and customs that got them into this mess. There are 5 that often come to the top of our heads, so let's get into it.
All saying I want a strong man who's gonna lead, who's got his shit together, who isn't in his feelings. But then on the other hand, you're like, but I also want him to let me hang out with my guy friends.
Well, let me ask you this. Why does a man, not wanting you to hang out with a guy friend equate to a strong man? Why does that make them a strong man?
Why do I need a leash?
Well, it depends. Do you want him hanging out with women when you're not there?
I didn't care if he communicated.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but I pay attention to what women do, not what they say. So, if you say, I'm fine with my boyfriend going off and hanging out with his girl who's a friend, it doesn't bother me. What I'm hearing is, that's not a guy you really want. That's not a guy that you're actually into, who really like...
Maybe you're speaking for yourself, but for me, that's not what happened. I loved him. I wanted a whole future with him.
But not enough to not hang out with the guy friends.
Right. Awkward.
She's not completely yours.
How do you ensure that he's showing me?
You can't. That's her decision.
What you mean you can't?
Nah, I agree with that.
I feel like as a man, you know when a woman is really invested in you.
No, you don't.
Versus, why?
No, you don't. And that's what men be scared of. Because once you get into that space where you think you know that, and then some bad shit happen, and it catch you completely off guard, that shit can ruin your life.
But you don't feel like...
Have you noticed men don't bounce back from hard breakups?
Yeah. Oh, they really don't.
It ain't like once a nigga go through not if you just fucking with somebody and and passing, but if a man been like a real long-term relationship, he don't just leave that motherfucker and go jump to some new shit and be happy.
Yeah.
Not unless he been unhappy for a real long time. But if that nigga was happy at some point and then she completely switched the program, that shit fucking nigga up. Don't get mad.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. When it comes to the viability of the Western woman, a lot of it comes down to the defeatist mentality that feminism constantly praises. They're going to look at me like that anyway, so I might as well hop on the carousel. If I act like a proper woman, this leaves me vulnerable to the so-called demonic men from the 1800s. I'm a single mom anyway, so I might as well rack it up and get 3 new baby daddies in the process. And this is the kind of belief system that makes feminism rank first among pervasive cults, and why it'll probably be studied when the world finally comes to its senses. We've seen a lot of these clips over the years. The women start off aggressively with their typical campaign buzzwords and break everything down to semantics. But it always leads to the same thing every time the logic falls apart. Well, why should I even try? We're in this situation, so what's the point in finding the cause? This mentality compounds generationally, which is why we always see crazier shit with each new batch that comes of age. They're told by the single moms and celebrities they follow that a return to traditionalism will lead to defeat and subservience. The funny and sad part is that, in the case of women, the words subservience and defeat shouldn't inhabit the same sentence, because that's basically like saying that acting like a woman will be a total loss.
So he knows I'm going to lunch.
He knows you're
going to lunch. He knows my vibe. He knows how I like to move, and he only sent $30.
I'm not going to bend over backward for a man that is just sending whatever he can. But if I'm talking to him, next time I'm out and he says, oh, you need something for lunch, I'm going to tell him, it's okay, somebody already sent me $100.
Okay. If we're being completely honest, right here, right now, we've all eaten lunch for $30.
Yes.
Let's start
100%.
Wait, little cafe spot, baby.
I'm
Yeah, lunch for $17.
I'm going to snap us and get something popping, but
we're not saying that we're ungrateful.
Right.
Food is food on the table. However, you know what the standard is.
Correct.
Me in that situation, handling it with grace, thank you so much, baby. I'm so appreciative. I'm going to still take a picture of that bill and I'm going to send it to him. Thank you for the 30. That was the tip.
Also, men, if you know that you cannot give $30 or if it's hard for you to give, then you need to date within
Don't
your...
date.
You can date. No, you can.
Do not date.
But date with the woman that, number one, does not have that expectation, or number two, is in that range.
You said nothing.
So you're telling me this man drives a Honda Civic, lives with not one, but 2 roommates, and he shops at Walmart, and you are stressed about him because he didn't text you back? Babe, stop. Just go to date.com and find yourself a rich guy, okay? There's only rich guys on there, I'm telling you.
I did a little digging so you didn't have to, and there are no men on the site, just bots. Shocking, right? In the feminist scheme, the one that many of them wholeheartedly believe, money buys loyalty. There are a number of things wrong with this, but the primary one has to do with the fact that this has never been true for anyone. Not for men, and especially not for women. And this just comes down to one simple fact. Presence and loyalty are not the same thing. Like I said, even for dudes with a good job, if the money stops flowing and the boss is an ass, well, that's the end of the road. The money bought your time, not your devotion. Feminists, in an extreme act of greed, continue to raise the price for shoddy goods, trying to convince me that the higher the cost, the greater the reward. But even if this was remotely accurate, which it isn't, this would mean that millionaires and billionaires would be able to hold on to their non-traditional wives. Even Bezos bought into this clown show of a system, and the consequence was losing 50% of his net worth, producing a nightmare that now prances around telling everyone she's a self-made best-selling novelist. It was a con that lasted for about 30 to 50 years, but the evidence is stacked so high at this point, nobody but moronic actors fund this anymore. It's why we now see chicks hustling with nonsensical masterclasses. They sell these empty promises like the movement is thriving, but we all know that if the hustle still worked, they wouldn't do something so desperate in literally every category, especially in what was once considered sacred.
Can you present to me compelling and convincing arguments why I or other men should get married?
I think the first thing that came to mind is that how serious a real man is. A real man who stands on his word. You stand on your word, you stand on what you do in life, and you say, hey, you're the one I want, and I want to live the rest of my life with you, and I don't want anybody else. Why do I need a marriage for that?
Why do I need a marriage for that?
If you're saying that, prove it. Show by your actions you have the action to put my hand in wedlock as in a commitment.
Okay, let's assume the man says, you're the one that I want forever. They think that you're great. You're the greatest ever. I want to only be with you for the rest of my life, and I want to commit to that. Will you commit to give him a prenup so that if you divorce him, you get nothing?
No, I don't agree with someone signing into marriage and not getting anything. If you both put in work and you just leave the marriage with nothing, I don't think that's fair.
Well, that's really quite the strange argument then to say, well, wait, I expect this lifetime commitment from you in order to prove and demonstrate that you love me. Where's the demonstration of love from you? Couldn't you demonstrate that you were equally...
Whoops. I interviewed a lot of men that were victims of divorce rape. And these are men that lost everything in divorce. Wives left, took the kids, took their money, lost their job, like just complete L. And I found out it was a common pattern that after the second child, a lot of these women stop sleeping with their husbands and get the divorce. I found this consistent amongst Muslim background, Catholic background, Christian, United States, California. And I found out that the average marriage it's not a good experience for most men because they don't get anything out of it. Most men that have been married over a certain amount of time did not have happy marriages. And what I figured out is marriage seems to be going away for the middle class and be something for the upper class, and that's it. Most men live on their wife's terms, not theirs. Even Christian women, I found that they would almost be worse quality. And I know the Catholics and Christians hate me for this. But what I did conclude is that I do think that the only marriage that's left is the purest marriage that you could possibly have. The people that make it work, they're there because they love each other. Because there's nothing in this society that's keeping people together.
I like how she kind of separated the US and California there. Nice touch. Anyway, this is a driving factor for divorce and the act in general. Marriage only fails when a man fails. Even though women are responsible for 70 to 90% of divorce cases, almost making it a staple when two women decide to elope, the narrative keeps getting pushed that men are the reason marriage is fading in the Western world. But like what was said here, it's women, regardless of their religious affiliation, that are responsible for this collapse. All of the data proves that if men had their way in these systems, marriage would work in accordance with the vows made at the altar. And yet, because it doesn't go that way, because women are able to reinterpret the sacred institutional rights masculinity created, nobody in their right mind is interested in entering the game. They know it's rigged, and anytime a man slips through the cracks and ends up with a ring on their finger, the consequences are insane, and they're forced to witness a man's worst fears. The family and everything he built disappear at the crack of a gavel. Feminists thought that they could get away with murder here. They believed that as long as they made movies, shows, and fictional novels that villainized the father, somehow men would magically march in lockstep and reject their inner compass for a false promise. But that is because they continue to fail when trying to understand what a man is, and how his intuition is far different than what's found marching on the streets in San Francisco.
Projecting how you feel in a moment, in an exact moment, especially when you're heightened, your adrenaline's pumping, you're upset, you can have perceptions of a situation when it's not clear that that actually was what the situation is. It just comes down to, but I felt like that. Did he do anything to you? No, but I felt like he might. Did he actually? I felt like he might have, though.
Have you ever rejected a man specifically to test his determination to winning you over?
Yes, 100%.
So then how does no always mean no?
It doesn't. No can mean yeah.
Well, that's confusing.
No can mean yeah, and yeah can mean no. Just depends on how you say it.
Hey, we need a translator.
So it's the most secure thing you can do as a husband, to not endlessly burden your family with nonsensical justifications from women making endless demands for them when it's unnecessary. Do you think it's good for your wife to constantly second guess you? No, it's not. But that's a justification.
Yeah.
The second guessing is the asking and requesting of justification. That's second guessing.
I think you would be showing her through your character, and she would eventually learn to trust you.
She doesn't need to learn to trust you. She's your wife. That's already inferred. That's already implied. That's already done. Otherwise, why'd you get married? Saying we can only have a biblical marriage after 7 years, or can we do it right away?
You start from the beginning.
Yeah, it's not for her to endlessly question the authority of her husband. It's not for her to do, and this is modernist Christian view. This has never been the view historically in Christianity, ever, that you were to consult your wife about blah, blah. It's never been the view, ever. Do you think that the world right now, the United States, would be a better place or a worse place if wives mostly did what their husbands said?
I don't know if I can answer that question.
And this is the vanity trap feminists fall into every damn time, and what makes them think they should share the floor. A woman's gut is a man's gut, one of the greatest lies in modern history. Look, I never watched a dating show outside of a waiting room, but the contrast between what real men do and what women do almost always seems to follow the same pattern. When the man is confronted with a choice, he walks away from the chaos, tries to clear his head, and then later comes out with a verdict. When a woman has to deal with an identical problem, not even in the realm of dating, she collapses to the floor, weeps, and basically an advisory board has to come in with a list of pros and cons to guide her to a particular action. Technically, men don't act on feeling when making a sound decision, but when the gut talks, with the right amount of discipline, the choice will almost always be right. I see feminists trying to twist the narrative here yet again, but the fact is, a man's default feelings are far more reliable than those seen in women. And how do we know this? Because contrary to the press, women in the West are miserable. They trust their feelings at every turn, melt down or get furious, and blame the rest of the world for every problem that comes their way. And knowing that, is it any wonder why feminism is failing? Is it a mystery why chicks are more often seen crying than dancing with stolen money these days? Of course not, but they still can't seem to understand why. Perception is everything.
My body count is 1,572. And bleach. Lots of bleach.
To my OnlyFans friends here, do you think that you are more desirable or less desirable to a future husband when you post suggestive pictures online?
I've always received love the same way, and they all view me the same way. So whether or not I'm doing OnlyFans and selling my body, or not doing OnlyFans and selling my body, I'm still looked at the same way. They still think that of me.
Yeah, you don't know the male mind very well. That pool of men that you eventually want to have a family with,
Yeah.
do you think they will look fondly upon OnlyFans girls?
I don't know. I don't know.
I could tell you as a man that we look so lowly on OnlyFans girls.
That's your opinion.
No, it's not.
Really?
It's the average Western male.
I'd say a lot of the guys that I know are more, I guess, the higher value type guys.
And there's actually-
they don't take OnlyFans girls seriously.
No, yeah,
and
just-
they will
but
never look at them for marriage.
some people actually do want OnlyFans women and want to marry OnlyFans women and have kids with OnlyFans women.
Erroneous! But very few.
Erroneous. Well, hold
Very
on. Do you think those men are virtuous, high-quality men that won't cheat on you?
Yeah, I do.
Welp, that resolved nothing. And that's because when it comes to the modern female feminist, the ultimate belief is, I am what I say I am. It's this kind of thinking that makes city girls dress up like wolves as if they sit in the heart of Alaska, dye their skin and claim a different background, become a single mom and cry martyrdom, or in this case, join OnlyFans and roam the earth trying to convince real men that they are a self-made entrepreneur with a taboo hustle. We talk a lot of shit when it comes to people that sit in these categories, and the general response is always something along the lines of, I am what I say I am. And while feminists continue to try and push the idea that this is a sign of strength and resilience, it's actually one of the biggest holes in their logic, and one of the biggest signs that the feminist machine is really falling apart. This is because if all of these women, the ones that try and tell everyone what they're doing is wonderful and fine, really felt this way, then they would just come out and say what they are. But they don't, because they run from the deserved stigma that follows all of their choices. In other words, they're ashamed. So they continue to put up the front, hoping that one day men will just happily fail.
Okay, so I'm going to say it because nobody else will say it. If you're a guy and you rather hang out with the homeboys rather than be home with like a bad bitch, you know, like a home cooked meal on the table, movie day, if you rather be with the homeboys at night to go get drinks and stuff like that, you're on the DL. In my book, you're on the DL. I don't care.
So you're single?
Single.
How you doing, brother? You know, shit, pal. But I'm hanging in there.
Men, particularly those in the West, the world is constantly trying to promote a set of beliefs and general principles that just don't make sense to you. For those new to how all of this works, the ones sending emails wondering where all of this has been, it might have felt like you were sitting in a town or a city, feeling like you were the only sane person in the room. Our only hope from outlining and dissecting these beliefs feminists have is to just follow through and show you, well, you're right. Modern women have completely lost their minds. Up is down, down is up, left is right. You get the point here. By dating people like this, or giving them any of your time, beyond having the occasional laugh at their expense, you are feeding a belief system that constantly contradicts itself. You're giving that strung out person under the overpass another needle. Not only that, but endorsing this behavior is like sitting right there with them just so they might get one more second of validation. Instead, recognize your value, rise to the occasion, ignore the noise, and you'll surprise yourself with how such a simple decision will go such a long way. And if you made it to the end of this video, I want to say I appreciate you. So don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment to have a chance to win, and hit that subscribe button for daily videos. And if you could take a quick sec to subscribe to the second channel, Man Guide Reacts, link is down below in the description, so we can be sure that our message will keep on reaching the new men out there. I appreciate all the support, y'all.